Hi friends, it's Terry Gaines. In this video tutorial, I'm going to share a fun technique with the Stampin Blends. For this technique, you need a 3D embossing folder. I'm going to be using the Layered Florals embossing folder. You need your blends and a tuxedo black Memento ink pad. What you want to do is emboss a basic white layer. The layer I'm going to emboss is 5 inches by 3 3/4, and you can create this in any size you would like. What I'm going to do is place it in the embossing folder. I have the logo side down, and that has this black line on it I'm going to use for lining. And I'm going to put it in the top corner and line up that edge of my paper right to that black line on the folder. It doesn't have to be perfect, but that's the location I want to place this. I'm going to bring in my cut and emboss machine. I have my platform down here. I'm going to place the folder with the paper in here and then put the number 4 platform. Whoops, and then run this through the cut and emboss machine, and that's going to add that beautiful 3D texture to this basic white cardstock. And it is so pretty. There's lots of things you can do with it for creating, but look at that beautiful embossed image. For this technique, we're going to turn it upside down, and we're going to work with the cavity part of it. We're going to color that in with the blends. So this is like a magic technique because we're going to color this in with the blends, and then we'll have black on top of that. So what I'm going to start out by doing is taking the light daffodil, and I'm going to take the bullet tip. And what I'm going to do is go straight in and color the small flowers. So in this design, there are some larger flowers, and then there's these small flowers. So I'm going to leave the petals of the small flowers to be white, and I'm going to take the bullet tip and just go straight up and down and color in the centers of all those little flowers. And there's several of them. Then I'm going to color the centers of the larger flowers with the dark daffodil. Now you can use either brush tip or the bullet tip. I'm going to use the brush tip for this. And what I'm going to do is start by just coloring in the centers of this. Now what's going to happen is we're going to have some overlap on this section with the colors that you choose for the petals of your flower. But you want to color all of those center pieces in with a color of your choice. And for my project, I'm using the dark daffodil. Now with this technique, you don't have to be really precise and accurate with your coloring. But what we do want to do is when you have a deep cavity, we want to color in the wall of that cavity. If you get ink on that top surface, that's okay, because we're going to be adding black over the top of this, and that's where the magic comes in. It's really fun when you get everything colored in and then you add that black, and just creates a beautiful design. So as I mentioned, you want to color in the walls. Now with these larger flowers, it's sometimes I found it hard at first to realize which was the green for the leaves and which was the petals. But I discovered that I believe all of the leaves have those extra lines in there that are embossed. Now you might be hearing some scratching, and I always tell at my different in-person classes, you don't want to hear scratching when you're coloring in with your blends and you're pushing too hard. Sometimes when you're using your blends a lot, they do dry out. That if you start having to hear the scratching when you're coloring it in, might be time to think about buying a replacement one. But with the brush tip, you just barely need to touch the surface of your paper and your ink is just going to flow in. So I'm coloring in the leaves. Now I'm not going to color in everything. I like to have some things prepared for my video, but my goal is to share all the details I can with you so you can duplicate this project and make it. So I go with the center of the flowers, then the green. I choose whatever green you choose. I choose to use the granny apple green. I think it's a brighter color, works great for this, but you have all kinds of options for the color choice. Now I'm going to use dark bubble bath for the petals of this flower. So I'm going to do that next. So what I'm going to do is just color in each of these petals. And as I mentioned before, you just barely touch your paper, the ink's going to flow. If you don't scratch or don't push so hard that it's scratched, you keep the brush tip lasting longer. We want to do that. And also, as I mentioned earlier, you want to go on the cavities. You want to go all the way up the wall. And if you overlap onto the top surface, that's okay, because that's going to be covered up with the black. When I get to this blending of this, you do get some overlap. It's just going to add an extra color in there. That's totally okay. And so you want to color in your entire petals. And let's see, I'm going to go around here, and I'm going to just color that all in. As I mentioned already, you don't have to look for perfection, but you do want to get everything colored in. If you don't go up the wall, the side of your image, you're going to have a white line. And I haven't showed you the first card yet, but you might have seen it on my blog. You might already seen it on the cover, the video cover. But you want to color those in. So you want to do all of the coloring in before you go to the next step. As I mentioned, I like to save some time on my videos, so I have this done ahead of time. So what I want to do is just make sure I got all the images colored in. You do have these small little cute leaves that are scattered throughout the design. I got all the centers to my little flowers in, centers to my big flowers, and all the petals. So now what we want to do is do the magic. That's where you put black over this, and it just makes a beautiful design. One thing I am going to do is I'm going to just use my fingers just to roll these ends down a little bit. I don't want my paper to go up this way. I'd rather it to go down this way. So I'm just going to roll it a little bit like this. I'm going to use my glass surface. If you don't have a glass surface, make sure you have scratch paper down to do this. The Memento ink pad is felt. It's solid. It's not a sponge. A sponge ink pad would not work for this technique. So you want to use your Memento ink. So what I'm going to do is take this and place it over my image and see how it fills in all that top surface. And what I'm going to do is try to keep it flat, because I don't want it to go and fill in my white flower petals, but any raised surface is going to be colored in. So what I'm going to do is just go in a little circular motion to color these in, and look at the magic. I'll bring that up. Isn't that beautiful? It's going to fill in any raised image. And I'm just going to be extra careful when I get around these white flowers, and because I want to make sure I keep those. I do have some samples, and I think I mentioned already, and if I didn't, I meant to. My friend Wanda gave me a card that she did this technique, and in my, I will reference or link you to her blog. She has a sample of the card she gave me on her blog, but I will also share a sample on my blog. So you color these in, and just look how magic. That's just beautiful how that pops up. Being a little careful around the white flowers, just because I want to retain some of that white. And if you push too hard, you're going to fill in more of that. Now, as I mentioned, I'm working on this glass mat. If you don't have the glass mat, you want to make sure you have some scratch paper down. And the choice is how much black you put on here. If you don't fill it in totally black, it's going to look like a chalkboard. So isn't that beautiful how that popped up and pops out and makes that beautiful card? So I'm going to grab the cleaning mat. Now, you get this mat as an option if you sign up to be a demonstrator. The offer ends the end of February, and this cleaning cloth comes with it, but it's bigger. I cut mine into quarters so I could work with a quarter of it at a time. And oops, I just dropped my ink pad. I'm going to just make sure the cover's still on it before I go on. Perfect. All right, my videos are unedited. They contain bloopers and mishaps like that. Your fingers do get a little dirty, and this does not take long to dry. So I'm going to share with you, I'm going to let this dry a little bit, but I'm going to put this on a black and then on the bubble bath color. I'm going to bring this one in. This one I did earlier, you can see that I pushed too hard and I filled in some of those white flowers. But what I also did is I put Bubble Bath, the Granny Apple Green, and then the black layer. So I'm going to do this one different so you can see the difference between the different options here. So what you want to do is layer this. And isn't that pretty even on the back side? So you're going to layer this. I'm going to look for equal spacing on all four sides by looking at the opposite corners. And the black just pops it out, but the other layering option works great too. So this just gets to be a personal decision on what color you choose for your images and then what colors you choose for your layering. So I'm going to put this on the Bubble Bath card base and give it a little bit more space. I'm going to add a sentiment. This sentiment is from the Go-To Greetings, and it is the Stylish Shape banner. And I'm going to put that one on with dimensionals and just put it right over on the edge here. And the beauty of putting a banner on, if you have another area that you have an oops that you want to camouflage, that's where you can put your sentiment. So here is the same colors. You can see it got a little bit more ink on this one and layered it differently. Here's another color option. This is Flirty Flamingo. And here's one that I created, one of the first ones I created. And I didn't put as much black on here, but I used 3 different colors here. And this is the card from Wanda. Isn't that beautiful? She used the, goodness, I'm slipping my mind on the color she used on that. But Fresh Freesia. Hers is with Fresh Freesia. So this is a fun technique. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. If you found me via YouTube, there'll be a direct link to my blog post so you can see photos of these cards. If you're new to my channel, I would love to have you subscribe. And hope you enjoyed this project. Take care and happy creating.